slaveholders told themselves lots of stories while they were holding slaves. And they told themselves how great they were, how kind they were, how benevolent the system was. And they sold that in photos, in images, in plays, and music.
Even prior to the Civil War, that there was this notion, oh, no, we're treating them very well, they're better off, you don't know how bad they had it in Africa.
Yeah, abolitionists are crazy.
I mean, I understand who they were trying to fool. Yeah. Were they fooling themselves? Did they actually believe this?
They do. Some do. There's a lot of evidence that as the Civil War comes along, and of course it's incredibly disruptive, many of the men are off fighting, and so women are head of the household. And as things begin to unravel in the South, the enslaved people start to realize that they could walk away, and they start to resist. And there's these really amazing, letters people write to each other. A woman writing to her sister saying, "You will never believe what happened today. They left. They just packed up and left after all we've done for them."
They were fighting for slavery because slavery was basically the engine of the entire Southern economy, right?
Right, and also the Southern identity. So. You have about 1/3 of Southern families in what becomes the Confederacy own slaves. So it's a pretty substantial number. And then of that 2/3 that don't own, there's certainly a very large proportion who aspired to. They weren't there yet, but they hoped in 10 or 20 years they may do what successful people do, which is to own enslaved labor.
Yeah.
So there's that aspiration. And then there's also just the value, that sort of intangible value of white supremacy, which is that no matter how poor I am as a white farmer or a white mechanic or what have you in the South, I am better than millions of other people in this society. There's a floor below which I cannot fall because that's where the enslaved people are.
This has started to be a story that the South told about themselves within living memory of the people who had done it.
Yeah, and it certainly played well among them.
Right.
It also, part of that narrative was also the reason you lost is not because you were lesser.
Right.
In fact, you were superior. You had more nobility, more honor, more courage. You only lost because the other side was just so overwhelmingly huge, this giant, soulless industrial machine.
The North crushed the poor agrarian, and amazing how they fought given their lack of resources.
So you get super props for going down, valiantly and so forth. And then the other part of that is that it wasn't about slavery, but by the way, slavery wasn't all that bad.
Right.